So, welcome to our Thursday morning 9 a.m. flow. So, as I mentioned, I'm a bit tired this morning. Just had one of those mornings where woke up a bit sleepy. So, I'm sure my practice will mimic my mood. We'll do a slow flow this morning, and we'll get into our hips and hamstrings. I think might be a nice one for today. So, balancing out all the sitting that we do, desks and whatnot, working from home or office work, whatever we do. If we spend a lot of time sitting on the couch watching TV and vegging out, it'll be a nice way just to ease into our hips and hammies this morning. So welcome, and make our way into Shavasana, my favorite way to start our practice, laying down completely at rest. If you prefer a different restorative position, you're welcome to take it. If you prefer seated meditation, whatever makes us feel most comfortable at this beginning of practice. So we just want to get into this space of relaxing down through the body. The more that we can rest the body, the easier it is for that mind to settle as well. So getting comfortable, noticing any chatter, internal chatter that we've got going on in the mind, what it's drawn to, anything, whether it's the day coming up, if we've got to-do lists, if there's things that have happened that we're dwelling upon, or maybe overthinking things we could have done differently. We're just here to observe whatever that activity is. We're not trying to add or change anything. We're just getting rid of that desire to interfere. So I use the analogy of our bowl of water with the ripples on top. If we were to try to stamp down those ripples, to try and push down, put our hand over the bowl and try and press those ripples flat, we only end up creating more ripples. And it's a good analogy for the mind, because if we ever try to forcefully quieten ourselves, it only ends up causing more turmoil or more thoughts to arise. And we all would have experienced it at some stage, trying to go to sleep. The more we tell ourselves to do it, the more restless our mind gets. But when we stop interfering, when we take this mental step back, we just allow the mind to come to settle in its own time, in its own way. And to aid that, we can just bring our awareness into what's happening here and now. We can do that by just tuning into our senses to notice the different sounds going on around us this morning. Maybe we're practicing from home, whether it's inside or outside. Noticing those morning sounds that we have within our own space today. Whether it's nature or man-made. And just noticing which of these sounds captures our attention the most. And seeing if we can move that attention to the sounds that are more subtle, that we can hear but maybe weren't particularly listening to. That white noise that goes unnoticed. As we move this awareness now into our sense of touch, of feeling, just noticing the temperature of the air against the skin. How much of our body is in contact with the floor, which parts of us are in contact with the floor. Maybe using a nice long exhale to see if we can melt a little bit more of ourselves into our mats. And feeling internally the warmth of the body, how our muscles are feeling this morning. If it's this little bit colder weather, whether we're a little bit tighter, a little bit more stiff, Just seeing if we can consciously loosen and lengthen the muscle fibers of the body. Just melting down like candle wax into the floor. We're getting this clearer picture of how we are in our bodies today. So knowing that we wake up a little bit different each morning, we can let go of any expectations that we have for our practice, our bodies this morning. Instead of trying to tell ourselves what to do, we're cultivating this sense of listening, this greater awareness for what our body feels like doing this morning. Remembering we can take any modifications we'd like, we can personalize our practice, we can take rest whenever we'd like to as well. But our practice, our yoga is our own, regardless of any of the things, any of the recommendations that I make or postures we move through. Always coming back to listening to the body. As we wriggle through fingers and toes, just noticing that movement, the extremities of the body, introducing a little bit of warmth through those fingers and toes, and then drawing our knees in towards the chest, so squeezing in nice and tight into our ball. And we'll check in with these hips by adding our sway left and right, so just noticing where it's tight. Maybe we'll take circles, maybe semicircles, we can take figure eights. Introduce whatever movement here that feels good for us or feels most natural to move through. Maybe it's loosening up a little, generating a little bit more mobility through the hips this morning. Maybe it's just a gentle rock side to side to see how we're feeling. And then coming back to center, we're going to lower the feet to the floor. We'll take them out nice and wide, but keeping the heels towards the hips. Taking our windscreen wipers, so we're just going left to right, keeping this upper body relaxed into the floor. As we just point those knees to each side, lowering that inside knee towards the opposite heel. So we're loosening up through the hips or warming up through the hips, getting this little stretch from side to side down the sides of the lower back. And then coming back into center. We'll take our right foot nice and long up, nice and tall. So I've got a couple of options here. Depending on our flexibility, we might like to take the hand around the foot, maybe the peace fingers around the big toe. This leg can either be straight or that knee bent as much as we'd like. If it's more comfortable, we can take our hands around the calf or behind the hamstring maybe, if that feels good. And we can either place this left foot or have this left foot to the floor, or we can start to lengthen that leg out. Just see how that feels. You just want to stretch, open up through this right hamstring. Mine are particularly tight this morning. So, like I said, we wake up a little bit different every day. Especially I find if I haven't done a practice the day before. And if I sit down in front of a computer, a TV, having that 90-degree position in the knee, the hamstrings contracted. That next day, when I start to stretch them out, I always feel that tightness. So working with wherever we are in our bodies this morning, might like to add this gentle pulse, so this lengthening of the leg. If we've had that knee bent, maybe introducing a little bit more length. If we're comfortable with that leg straight, maybe drawing it back towards the head a little bit, feeling it more into the hamstrings that way. But just have a play around, see what feels good. And then when we're ready, we're going to bend the knee, taking this hand around the outer edge of the foot or those peace fingers around the big toe, coming into our half happy baby. So we're taking this left leg long now, if we haven't already, this right knee drawing down towards the mat beneath the armpit. And getting this gentle opening across the hips, perhaps through that right hamstring maybe. But we're opening the sole of the foot towards the ceiling, keeping that lower back nice and long to the mat. And then releasing this foot down. So placing the sole of the foot to the floor to start, taking this left leg up nice and long, taking our option. So again, we can either wrap around the big toe, we can take our hold around the outer edge of the foot, we can take the calf or the hamstring. If it feels good, lengthening out that right leg. But whatever option we're taking, we want to come back to resting the head and shoulders to the floor. So we don't want to be tucking up to be able to try and reach that foot. Take the hand position that still allows us to be at rest through the upper body. Again, we can either take that gentle pulse, or maybe with a straight leg, that gentle pulse back over towards the head. And let's bend that left knee, taking our hand position of choice, feeling that left knee lower towards the mat, open that sole to the ceiling or sky. And from here, we're going to bend the right knee, coming into a full happy baby. So taking hold of both feet, really lengthen out through that lower back. If we've curled up through the hips, seeing if we can lengthen that down now, keeping those feet, soles of feet open. And we're going to take our little rock into this happy baby, enjoying being here. Maybe a little massage into the back muscles. And returning back through center, curling into our ball, rock and roll, making our way up to seated. And coming to sit tall. So we're taking that breath in, sitting, lengthening up through the crown of the head. We'll take this left arm up and over our side neck. So they sort of come in pairs. If we're tight through the hips, or we'll sit from sitting down a lot. If we're tight through the hips, chances are we're probably feeling it a lot through the neck and shoulders as well. So if we're working on computers, we're sitting with those bent knees, cramping up through hamstrings. That head starts to poke forwards to our screen and really starts to tighten up around the neck here. And release it out, taking our turn of the head, tuck of the chin, lengthening down the back. So we've got that option to extend that right arm, either fingertips or palm to the floor. We're feeling that right shoulder blade relax down the back. And release back to our second side. So inhaling that right arm up and over. I think in the 4 years of teaching yoga, I've had maybe 2 or 3 classes where I've forgotten to put these neck stretches in. And really in these upper traps we store so much of this stress, so much of this tension. It's nice, especially at the beginning of the practice, just to start up top here. Ease it out a little bit. Let's release this side, turn our gaze, tuck the chin. And just noticing how tall we're sitting right now as well. So this position, if we are suffering from those tight hips, sometimes it can bring the knees up and curl us forward. So if we can, take a breath in to lengthen up a little, opening through the chest. We want to be able to sit tall and relax down the back of the body. And releasing this side, back to our hamstrings. Lengthen these legs out nice and long. Draw these toes back in towards us. We'll take 3 flows, so we're going to inhale, hands rise. As we exhale, keeping this chest open as we fold forwards, this lengthening. On our breath in, we're going to sit back nice and tall, reaching up sides of the body, fingertips tall. Exhale, keep that reach through the fingertips. See if we get a little bit longer. One more time. Inhale, reaching up. Keep this length nice and long through the upper body as we fold forwards, taking hold of whatever's available here. And bending those knees as much as we'd like. So that tingling sensation behind the knees, that neural stretching, if it's quite intense, bend through the knees. It allows us to take the fold from the hips a little further, getting into the belly of the muscle, rather than having those legs straight and feeling that neural sensation at the back of the legs there. And release. Sitting up nice and tall. We're going to take this left foot over the right leg, inhaling, opposite side, inhaling this right arm up, exhaling that elbow across the thigh. Let's inhale to lift, exhale, coming gently into our twist. So we're starting to open up this upper body. Gentle twist up through the vertebra. As we inhale, keep lifting through the crown of the head. We want to create space between the vertebra first, then introducing our rotation. Another breath in. Exhale, back through center. We're going to take this left leg, tucking it in to that right thigh. We're going to do our single leg hamstring fold. So we're turning slightly to face over this front leg. Let's inhale. Just one this time. As we exhale, folding forwards. I'm going to turn and face this way. So taking this fold, we can either hold here, or if we'd like to introduce a little side body stretch, we can open up through the chest, reaching these left fingertips nice and long, keeping these shoulders stacked, getting this side lengthening down that right side. Take a breath in. Exhale, releasing that top hand. If we had that reach, let's inhale, sitting up nice and tall. We're going to swap sides, so that left leg out nice and long. So starting with that right foot across the leg, coming into our twist first. Inhale, that left arm. Exhale across. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist. Take a deep belly breath in. Exhale back to center. Releasing this right foot, tucking into the left thigh. Turn a little here. Sit tall. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. A little cramp there. I don't know if I can hold that one this morning. I'm going to take a different stretch. You guys keep holding that. I've got to stretch out my quad. It's cramped. So taking that breath in, we're taking our hamstring fold. Option to take that side stretch. Let's see if I can, that's better. So if we're taking that side stretch, opening through the chest, reaching through those right fingertips. I went for my second bike ride yesterday in a very long time, so my quads are particularly tight as well. Hence my enthusiasm for doing a hips and hamstrings class this morning. Take a breath in. Exhale, releasing down. Inhale, sitting tall. Sweeping these feet around behind us, coming into our tabletop position. Spreading those fingers nice and wide. We're going to take some hip circles here. So taking a breath in. On the exhale, we're going to take our hips out to the right, down and around towards the heels, using our inhale to finish the circle as we come up to center. Opposite direction, so we're exhaling out to the side, down and around. Inhale, up to all fours. Just moving with our breath here. We can take little circles, we can take big circles, grow them, shrink them, whatever we'd like here. We're just getting a little bit of dynamic mobility through these hips now. Coming back up to center into our cat-cow. So as we take our next in-breath, dropping that belly towards the mat, opening the chest towards the front. As we exhale, tucking that tailbone under, rounding through the spine, press through the arms. Inhale, opening along the front of the body. Exhale, feeling that lengthening down the back of the spine. Tuck that tailbone under. Inhale, open, widen through the collarbones. Exhale, as if we're being lifted through the back of the heart towards the ceiling. So nice big movements here as well as complete breaths. So deep inhales, long exhales. And then returning back to our tabletop, that neutral spine, tucking our toes under, coming into our downward facing dog. And we can choose to pedal it out here if that feels good. Or whatever we'd like to do. Get our modifications. We can take downward puppy. We can bend those knees as much as we like. Whatever option we've taken, we'll come now to walk those feet to the front of the mat. Press down through the heels, so we're lengthening through the backs of the legs as we walk in. Coming into our ragdoll. Taking our fold, bend those knees, tummy resting against the thighs. Let that upper body hang over the hips with a little sway left and right. Back to center, release those fingertips towards the floor. Let's inhale, half lift. Exhale, a fold. Reversing our dive now. We'll inhale, take it all the way up, lengthening through these fingertips. Exhale, Tadasana. We're releasing these hands by the sides, taking a moment just to stand tall. Check in with the posture. Lift through the crown of the head. Gently tucking that chin in, the shoulders. We can take a shrug and a roll of the shoulders if that feels good, if it helps us settle through those upper traps. Notice in the hips if we're tilting forward, seeing if we can just bring the front tips of the hips up towards the ribs, that tailbone anchoring towards the floor. From here, we're going to inhale our hands up overhead. As we exhale, keeping this chest open as we fold forwards, bending the knees if we're tight through the hammies or lower back. As we inhale, take our half lift to lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold it forwards. Beautiful. Bend those knees. On an inhale, we'll press ourselves all the way up. Lengthen through the arms this time. We'll take a little side bend on our exhale. Grounding through our right foot, leaning over to the left. Inhale up through center. Exhale, opposite side. We'll do one more on each side. So inhale back to the middle. Exhale. So we're grounding through that opposite side foot. It helps create that length down the side of the body. Inhale, tall. Last one, exhale. So that left foot grounding. Inhale, back up to center. We'll take our back bend on our next exhale, opening through the heart. Inhale as we lift as tall as we can. Exhale, dive it over. Half lift. High plank. We're going to take these hands to mat. Step it back. Going to hold here for a few breaths. A little bit of core work. Draw that belly button in. Pressing those arms into the mat so we're nice and strong through the upper body. Core engaged. Tucking that tailbone under. Nice and long through the lower back. We can be on toes or knees. Take another breath in. Exhale, chaturanga, slow and steady as we ease our way down. On our inhale, taking our cobra or upward facing dog if we're feeling warmed up. Exhale, downward facing dog. Little pedal out or resting those heels towards the mat if that feels good. This time we're going to gaze forwards, bend those knees, step or hop. Feet to front, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reversing our swan dive, reaching tall. Just our back bend on the exhale this time. Open heart. Inhale, lift. Exhale, dive. Half lift. High plank, step or hop this time. Soft with those feet. Core engaged. Take our breath. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, open. Exhale, downward facing dog. From here, we're going to lower. Actually, we'll do one more flow. From here, we're going to inhale the shoulders forward. So we're coming into our high plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, open through the back bend. Exhale, downward dog. We'll take one more of these, just bringing a little bit of movement into the body. So inhale, high plank. Strong and steady, toes or knees. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, open. Exhale, downward dog. This time we'll lower those knees down to the mat. Coming to our tabletop position. So just getting ourselves settled, then we'll walk these hands forwards, coming into our downward puppy. We're opening this chest towards the mat. You can keep these hips over the knees. I'm going to scoot back a little bit here. So walking hands forward. So we're opening the chest towards the mat. We can rest the forehead or the chin if it's comfy for the neck. Otherwise, resting that forehead to the mat. Chest opens to the floor on an inhale. Relaxing the back of the body, the hips on our exhale. If we'd like to, we can come up onto the fingertips if that helps us open up a little further. Starting to walk those hands back towards us into our tabletop position. We can take this right hand out over in front of our left, taking our breath in. On the exhale, deepen those hips towards the heels, so we're lengthening down that right side of the body. We can walk that hand further left. We can ease that torso to the right. Notice if that deepens the stretch down that right side. Turning our way back up to all fours. We're going to swap sides. So that left hand out over in front of the right. Take our breath in. Exhale, lowering down. So again, once we're settled here, once we've lowered, then option to have a play with our position, maybe walking out that hand or the torso to the side. And coming back up to all fours. We'll just open up this upper body a little bit further before we get back into our hips and hamstrings. So we're going to lower our chest towards the mat. So we're laying on our tummies. So we're going to open up through this chest. We're going to take our right arm out at about 45 degrees. Our little bend in the elbow, keeping that right shoulder low to the mat. We're going to peel open so we can press through this left hand. Peeling open so that we're feeling the stretch through our right pec. So pec major, pec minor, that right side of the chest. Like I was saying, those problems coming hand in hand if we're tight through the hips and hammies. It's coming from that seated position. If we're hunching, the chest muscles start to tighten as well. I want to be opening this up. It helps us sit taller, stand taller. Helps us roll those shoulders back and down. It helps ease off if we've got that forward shoulder position. And pec minor, stretching that out helps relieve that tension a little bit. Let's make our way back through center, swapping sides, bringing that right hand palm underneath the armpit, left arm out this time, add that little bend, peeling ourselves open, so feeling that stretch come on. Have a play around with that hand position. Everyone's shoulder, everyone's skeleton is different. If we need to make little adjustments to find our own little sweet spot here. Comfortable in our stretch. And back through middle. Laying flat, we're going to place both palms under the armpits. We're going to reverse chaturanga. We're going to tuck those toes under from toes or knees. On our inhale, big press up. As we exhale, chaturanga, lowering down. As we inhale, we open. As we exhale, our downward facing dog. Getting back into these hips, let's inhale that left heel to the sky. Exhaling a warrior two. So placing that foot between the hands, grounding that back foot at 90 degrees, windmilling these arms up. Finding our way into our warrior. Check in that alignment of the front knee. Should be able to see that big toe on the inside of the knee, extending out through the fingertips. Gazing over that front middle finger. And then flipping our front palm, we'll inhale, reverse the warrior, lengthening up this left side. As we exhale, returning back to our warrior two. We're going to lengthen our right leg nice and long, coming into our triangle, drawing back through the hips, lengthening through the left fingertips, coming down into our trikonasana. We can leave that left hand to rest on the shin, or maybe taking those fingertips towards the floor, reaching those right fingertips towards the ceiling. Feeling this opening through that inner left thigh, maybe down that lower side, that lower right side of the body as well. Or lower right side of the torso. Take a breath in. As we exhale, we're going to release this right hand down to the mat. We're going to bend through this left knee, coming into our lunge. We're going to revolve our twist here. So placing that right hand to the floor for support. Inhale. Those left fingertips towards the sky this time. So strong through the legs. Take another breath in. Exhale, this left hand to lower, framing the front foot. Releasing that right knee to the mat this time, coming into our hamstring fold. So we're drawing that left side hip towards the back of our mat now. Take a breath in, a little bit more length through the upper body. As we exhale, folding over this left leg. Who doesn't love plenty of hamstring stretches in a class? From here we're going to come into our lunge position. We'll bend this left knee, so coming forwards. Our options here, so we've got a couple of different modifications. If we're happy framing the foot, we can keep it framed. If we'd like to rest our hands on that front thigh, we can, standing tall. If we'd like to take a further back bend, interlacing the fingers and opening through the heart. Or if we'd like to, we can release that right hand to the mat, taking that left hand to reach behind, taking hold of the outer edge of that right foot, so thumbs up position to the ceiling, and drawing that heel in towards the hip. So all of these options, our focus is still to just deepen through the hips or lower through the hips. We're not pushing them down, we're just getting ourselves in that position where we feel that comfortable stretch, and just seeing if we can consciously let go of anything that we're holding on to through the hips. If we're resisting in any way, wherever we feel that tension, that sensation of the stretch, see if we can ease into it a little further. If we're taking hold of that back foot, maybe drawing that heel in a little closer now. And releasing this side, releasing that back foot if we've taken hold. We're going to place both hands to the inside of that left foot. We're going to step back to our high plank. So toes or knees into our plank, taking our flow, our vinyasa, moving in our own time, moving with our breath. Let those inhales and exhales, full exhales guide the movement. Once we've made our way back to downward dog, we'll inhale that heel to sky. Right heel this time, stepping through our warrior two. Take our time, ground that back foot at 90, windmilling these arms up, getting ourselves comfortable. Maybe we're widening that stance, maybe we're shortening it. Guide that front knee over the heel, gaze over that front middle finger, grounding through the outer edge of our left foot. We want to have a little pocket of air underneath that left foot. We don't want it caving in, so we want to be nice and long through that outside edge. And then flip the palm. Inhale, reverse our warrior. Exhale, back to warrior two. Lengthen through the front leg, drawing the hips back, reach through the fingertips, making our way into Trikonasana. So either resting that palm or taking fingertips to the floor. Again, we've got our option of either shortening or widening that stance. Keeping this heart open, shoulders relaxed. Take our breath in. Exhale, lowering that hand to the mat. Ball of our back foot, so into that lunge position, taking our twist. Inhale, right fingertips towards the sky. In this rotation, check the breath. How easy is it for us to transition from one to the next? Take a breath in. Exhale, that right hand to lower. Left knee comes to the mat, lengthening this right leg out nice and long. Our hamstring fold. Take our breath in. Exhale, deepen a little. So we're continuing to draw that right side of the hip behind. The toes can draw towards the chest, creating that extra little bit of lengthening. And that leg can be as straight or as bent as we'd like. Start to bend through that right knee, bringing ourselves into our lunge position now. Our options: framed, resting to the thigh, open heart interlace, taking this little back bend, if you like, that further opening through the upper body as well. Just mindful, if we're taking this one, if we're opening up through the upper body, that we're not dumping into that lower back. We still want the core drawn in, that belly button hugging in, the front tips of the hips drawing up towards the ribs, and then lowering down in that position so we're feeling that stretch more through the hip flexor rather than just dumping those hips down. Our other alternative is to place that hand to the mat, reaching behind with that right hand, heel to hip. Towards the hip, not to the hip. I hope that was clear. We're just drawing that heel inwards. I've got to be careful what I say. And releasing that back foot down to the mat if we've taken hold. From here, we'll step back to our tabletop position. We're going to come into our frog pose. So depending on what flooring we've got under our mat, we might like to stay facing the front of our mat. If we've got a comfy mat and an uncomfortable floor, we might like to turn side on so that we can have these knees, both knees onto the mat. We're going to take them out to the sides, turning the arches of the feet to face the mat. And the heels just outside the knees. We can stay here supported by the hands. We might like to lower those forearms to the mat. Or if we've got a bolster, if we've got pillows, blankets underneath. I'm not sure if I'm still in shot here. But we're just opening up through the hips. Have a very gentle play with the spacing between the legs. If you'd like to take it out that little wider, it's an intense stretch across this inner groin. Perhaps gently lowering those hips towards the heels, very slowly. This is the one I love to hate. It's one of my very tight spots. It's getting comfortable with the discomfort. Slowly make our way back out. So as gently as we came into it, making our way back, we'll come to our tabletop. We're going to move into pigeon, so we'll take our downward facing dog. We'll inhale that right heel to sky when we're ready. And bringing that right foot towards that left wrist, lengthening long through that left leg. Our left hip stays low. We want to square off the hips. We don't want to be popping up one side. So checking in. We get this greater sense of proprioception or body awareness. Practicing at home, we don't have that feedback. So just be very mindful that we're keeping that left hip low. And just making our way down to rest through the upper body.
make our way back out.
We're going to swap sides, so we can either come straight back to down dog, or if you'd like to step that right foot back to plank and take a flow, you're more than welcome. So it's yogi's choice. If we're going straight into downward dog and we'd like to move straight into our opposite side pigeon, if we're taking that flow, a little bit more warmth through the body, when we're ready, we're coming into that opposite side. So remembering, it's yogi's choice, the whole practice, whenever we'd like to modify. Keeping that right hip low. So. Long through that right leg. And just being as at ease as we can through the hips, through the upper body, through the breath. Deep belly inhales, long exhales. I don't know where the time goes in these practices. 1 hour seems like a long time, and then it all disappears. Easier said during a flow. If you'd been doing my 6 a.m. Tuesday power yoga, maybe it's a different story. The power yoga seems to go on forever when we're under exertion. Let's press up through the hands. This time we're going to lower that left hip to the mat, bringing that right leg around. Coming into our boat pose. So we can extend long through these fingertips, either with our feet to the floor, or we can elevate those up, bringing those shins parallel. So we're relaxing through the shoulders, opening through the chest, keeping that core working as we take a deep breath in, and using our exhale to lower ourselves down comfortably. Letting ourselves rest to the floor. We'll draw those heels in towards the hip. We'll keep those legs together this time, so one big windscreen wiper side to side, that gentle sway. Just notice how the hips are feeling compared to when we first started our practice this morning. Making our way back to center position. So I'm going to take, so this will be our last posture before our Shavasana. If you'd like to take anything else that your body feels it needs, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we'll take the soles of the feet together, opening up the knees like the pages of a book, just allowing them to open to the sides. We can rest our hands by the side, tummy and chest to check the breath, or perhaps overhead, hands to opposite elbows. If an inversion is part of our regular practice, we're welcome to take that. Making our way out, if we've taken this Recline butterfly, bringing those knees towards each other. Any other posture that we've taken in our own time. If we want to hold it for a little bit longer, we can. Otherwise, making our way into our Shavasana, our corpse pose. We want to get ourselves comfortable, lengthening the arms and the legs. Last little movements. Last little letting go of tension in the body. Any activity in the muscles. Maybe another scan from head to toe, seeing if we can just relax ourselves down. And just enjoy these last few minutes turning inwards. And start to bring that awareness into the breath. The quality of our inhales and exhales. Feeling the rise and fall of the chest. As the chest falls, see if we can get a little bit more of our body relaxing into the floor. So So each exhale, letting go that little bit further. And wriggling through fingers and toes. Inhaling those arms up overhead, lengthening through the whole body. Big long stretch, waking ourselves, muscles, and rolling over to one side. As we gently make our way to seated, a comfortable position where we can sit tall, we can lengthen up through the vertebra, taking our hands to heart center. Our moment to check in after our practice, to notice how we're feeling both physically and mentally. And just grateful to ourselves again for taking this time to come to our mats, to practice and to indulge in this self-care. As we bow our heads to our hands, we honour ourselves and each other with Namaste.